The moment my boss tossed my hard-earned certificate onto his desk like it was junk mail, a quiet fury ignited inside me. Budget cuts, Margaret, he said with a careless shrug, lounging in his sleek chair. Your position's gone. Thanks for your time. I sat across from him in his airy Minneapolis office, clutching the certificate for the training program I'd just completed for our intern. My pride still warm from presenting it. My name's Margaret Hayes. I'm 62, and after 8 years as the project coordinator at Skyline Urban Solutions, I'd been sacked in a 3-minute conversation on a Monday morning. 8 years of flawless permits, met deadlines, and navigated regulations gone, just like that. But as I stared into his smug face, I made a vow. This wasn't the end. They'd regret underestimating me, and I'd make sure of it in ways they'd never see coming. I forced my voice to stay calm. Budget cuts. Right after we landed the $40 million lakefront redevelopment, Paul, my boss, shifted tugging at his designer tie. It's a strategic realignment. Sophie's taking over your duties now that you've trained her. Sophie Carter, the 25-year-old intern I'd mentored for 5 months. The one I'd taught the intricate dance of city codes, contractor negotiations, and permit filings. She had no real experience, but her social media presence was apparently fresh. I nodded, my face a mask. Will there be a transition? The lakefront project has critical permits pending. Paul glanced at his phone, already distracted. Not needed. You've done a great job with Sophie. She's ready. I doubted that. 5 months couldn't match 8 years. Let alone my 30 years in urban planning, but arguing was pointless. HR has your final paycheck and 2 weeks. Severance, Paul added, standing. Security will escort you out by noon. Security escort. After 8 years of loyalty, they treated me like a thief. I rose, my voice steady. Thank you for the opportunity. It took everything not to tell him what I thought of his realignment. As I left, I saw Sophie by the reception desk, her excitement barely hidden behind a fake frown. She'd known, maybe she'd even planned it. In that moment, I decided I wouldn't fight or beg. I'd walk away, but they'd soon learn what they'd lost. 2 hours later, I loaded a box of personal items, photos, a mug, a plant into my car and sat in the driver's seat, letting the shock settle. 8 years ended with thanks for your time and a security escort. I hadn't always been at Skyline. For decades, I'd worked at bigger firms in Minneapolis's development scene, but 8 years ago, when a market dip triggered layoffs, Paul recruited me for my regulatory expertise. We need someone who knows the system inside out, he'd said, praising my City Hall connections. Those connections helped Skyline grow from a small outfit to a major player. The lakefront project, a $40 million mixed-use development, was their crown jewel. I'd spent months securing approvals, leveraging decades-old relationships. When Paul asked me to train Sophie, I didn't mind. Mentoring was part of the job, and I enjoyed it. For 5 months, I'd taught her every deadlines, quirks like submitting permits on Mondays when the zoning officer was in a better mood. Sophie took notes, asked smart questions, and seemed eager. I'd even defended her when colleagues grumbled about her constant phone scrolling. She's young, but she's learning, I'd said. What I missed were her private meetings with Paul, their coffee runs, her subtle campaign to brand herself as the future while framing me as the past. I started my car but didn't drive. Instead, I called my son, Daniel. Mom, you're calling mid-morning, he answered, surprised. I got fired, I said, my voice cracking. What? How? His shock mirrored mine. I explained the abrupt dismissal, the paltry severance, being replaced by Sophie. That's ageism, Daniel said. You could sue. Maybe, I replied, pulling out of the lot. But I'm not sure that's my move. What do you mean? He asked, wary. He knew me too well. Nothing, I said, a smile creeping in. I just need to think. What I needed was a plan to show Skyline what they'd thrown away. That evening, I sat at my dining table with a cup of chamomile tea and my laptop, the sting of betrayal giving way to resolve. I wasn't just mad about losing my job. I was livid at the disrespect, being discarded like an outdated tool after years of service. I opened a folder I'd kept for years, digital records of every permit, application, and approval I'd secured for Skyline. The lakefront files stood out. Paul and Sophie didn't realize Aura had forgotten that these weren't just routine submissions. 4 years ago, the city of Minneapolis tapped me to streamline their permitting for major projects. The planning office, perpetually swamped, trusted my expertise. With their blessing, I'd created Hayes Compliance Solutions LLC, a liaison between developers and the city. It sped up approvals, benefited everyone, and gave me a side income. Skyline knew about my LLC, it's why they hired me. But in their rush to replace me with a fresh face, they'd overlooked a key detail. The lakefront permits were filed under my LLC, with my digital signature required for final approval. Without me, those permits were stuck. I sipped my tea, weighing my options. I could sign off as a courtesy, letting Skyline move forward, or I could remind them what they'd lost. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Asterisk, don't do anything. Crazy mom, talk to a lawyer. Asterisk, I smiled. He knew me too well. The next morning, I met my friend Lisa, an employment lawyer, at a cozy downtown cafe. They can't fire you just for being older, she said after hearing my story. But age discrimination is hard to prove. I'm not focused on that yet, I said. What about the permits under my LLC? Lisa's eyes lit up. If they're filed through your company and need your signature, you're not obligated to provide it without compensation. If Skyline thought those services came with your employment, that's their error, especially since your LLC is a separate entity. I nodded, my mind racing. I've got all the documentation. Perfect, Lisa said. I'll draft a letter stating your terms. Driving home, I felt a calm I hadn't in days. For the first time since Paul's budget cuts, I was in control. Off Monday brought a flood of calls and texts from Skyline, which I ignored. I savored my morning coffee, a crossword, pruning my roses in the spring sun. It was my first Monday free from the office in years, and I relished it. At 10:30 a.m., my phone rang. It was Carla, a senior planner at City Hall. I answered. Margaret, thank goodness, she said. We've got a problem with the lakefront permits. Skyline requested final approval, but they're under your LLC. I can't move forward without your signature. That's right, I said calmly. My employment with Skyline ended Friday, but my LLC's role is separate. Carla sighed. They're saying you're out of the picture, pushing us to bypass you. I smiled. That's not possible under our agreement, is it? Nope, she confirmed. Without you, they'd need to resubmit through standard channels, and that would take months, Carla said. At least, after hanging up, I checked my phone. 5 missed calls from Paul, plus a voicemail. Margaret, there's been a misunderstanding. Call me about the lakefront permits. Urgent. His panic was palpable. At noon, Lisa emailed me a draft letter for Skyline. It was sharp, professional, and clear. Hayes Compliance Solutions would complete the lakefront permits for $80,000, consulting fee roughly my salary for 9 months plus formal credit as the regulatory specialist. I approved it, and Lisa sent it off. Paul's reply came in minutes, a frantic email demanding a call. I ignored it, heading to a nursery to pick out herbs for my garden. As I browsed basil plants, my phone rang a number I didn't know. Mrs. Hayes, this is Victor Langston. I nearly dropped my basket. Langston was the lead investor in the lakefront project, a titan in Minneapolis's business world. Mr. Langston, how can I help? There's an issue with the lakefront permits, he said, his tone direct. Paul's explanations aren't adding up. I'd like to meet you to get the full picture. I agreed to meet him the next morning, at his office. Back home, I found an email from Sophie. Subject, please assist. It was a mix of pleading and patronizing. Asterisk Margaret, I know you're upset about the realignment, but delaying the lakefront project hurts your reputation. Please sign the permits. I'll mention you in the credits. Credits, asterisk. After being fired and replaced, she thought I'd settle for a footnote. I deleted it and went back to my garden plans. Tuesday. I dressed in a tailored gray suit for my meeting with Victor Langston, arriving early at Langston Properties' gleaming headquarters. He greeted me warmly, a sharp man in his 60s with a no-nonsense air. Coffee I accepted, and he cut to the chase. I've sunk $15 million into lakefront. Now it's stalled because Skyline fired the one person who could handle the permits. I'm not happy, I nodded. I understand. He leaned forward. Paul says it's a paperwork snag. You're dragging out because you're bitter. Tell me about these permits. I opened my laptop, showing the lakefront files, applications, approvals, pending clearances, all under my LLC 4 years ago. The city asked me to streamline major project approvals. My LLC acts as a liaison. Skyline knew this. but they forgot my company's role is separate from my job. Victor studied the documents. So, without your signature, the project's dead in the water. They'd need to resubmit through standard channels, I said. That's months of delays. He nodded. You sent terms to Skyline. Yes. A consulting fee and professional credit. Reasonable, he said. Their response. They want a call to discuss. Victor snorted. Typical. Margaret, I'd like to make you an offer. Langston Properties retains your LLC directly for Lakefront. Same fee you asked Skyline, plus bonuses for hitting regulatory milestones. You'd work with my team, not through Skyline. I kept my face neutral, though my heart raced. And Skyline's role, that's my problem, he said, a glint in his eye. I'm rethinking our partnership after this mess. I left with a verbal agreement. Lisa set to review the contract. As I reached my car, a text from Paul, emergency meeting Lakefront, 2 p.m. your presence needed, will pay a fee, too late, I thought. At home, a bouquet waited on my porch, with a card from Sophie, so sorry for the mix-up. Call Paul, ASAP, I gave the flowers to my neighbor and called Lisa about Victor's offer. They're matching your fee, plus bonuses, I said. I'd report to Langston, not Skyline, Lisa whistled. That's a power move. Victor's sidelining Skyline. Send me the contract. I spent the afternoon planting, the soil grounding. This was my new beginning, seeds for a future I'd shape. By Wednesday, word of my deal with Langston Properties spread through Minneapolis's development circles. My phone buzzed with calls from colleagues and reporters. Paul's desperation peaked. An email offering a consulting contract at triple my requested fee. Then a voicemail. Margaret, please. Langston's threatening to drop Skyline from Lakefront. This could ruin us. Name your price, sure job back, a raise, anything. His panic was almost sweet, but not enough to erase budget cuts. At noon, Lisa called. The contract's solid. It's not just Lakefront. Langston wants your LLC for all their Minneapolis projects for 2 years. Renewable, 6-figure, income, plus bonuses, and Skyline. The contract lets Langston choose or reject architectural partners. Skyline's not guaranteed anything. I signed that afternoon, a mix of triumph and reflection settling in. I hadn't meant to tank, given them 8 good years, but they'd made their choice when they discarded me. By Thursday, the landscape shifted. Carla called from City Hall. Paul's been hounding us to bypass the permit rules. When I said it's not possible, he called our process antiquated. The director shut him down, saying it ensures compliance. Paul backtracked fast. I laughed. Later, at a meeting with Victor's team, he dropped a bombshell. We're terminating Skyline's contract for Lakefront. Their permit mishandling shows poor judgment. I won't risk $40 million on that. I blinked. What about their plans? We own them, Victor said. Carlson Designs will take over, keeping most of the work. Carlson was Skyline's rival. The irony was sharp. Victor turned to me. Let's get this project on track. With your expertise, we'll make up time. I left energized. At 62, I'd been dismissed as past my prime. Now, I was pivotal to Minneapolis's biggest project, working with a titan like Victor. Sometimes, being fired is the best thing, especially when they don't realize what they're losing. Monday's Star Tribune business section screamed, Langston Properties cuts Skyline from Lakefront over permit fiasco. The article detailed the shift to Carlson Designs, with my LLC handling compliance. A quote from Victor, experience matters. We've hired Minneapolis's top regulatory expert to ensure success. A photo showed me at City Hall, signing the approvals that had been stalled. Daniel called, laughing. Mom, you're a legend. Skyline's imploding. Oh, I said, feigning innocence. 3 clients bailed, worried about permits without you. Sophie's back to posting After botching a simple filing, I smiled. That's business. No, he said, that's you. 3 months later, I stood at the lakefront groundbreaking, watching Victor and city officials shovel dirt for the cameras. My role had grown. I was now Langston's city liaison for all projects, a job tailored to my expertise. As flashes popped, I spotted Paul in the crowd, his confidence gone. Our eyes met. He looked away. A Star Tribune reporter interviewed me after the article, The Permit Maestro, How Margaret Hayes Redefined Minneapolis Development, ran front page. It praised my decades of knowledge and city trust. Quoting Carla, Margaret's unmatched. Developers with her get approvals twice as fast. My business boomed. I hired 2 seasoned assistants, women in their 50s. Overlooked elsewhere, and started an internship for midlife career change. Skyline faltered without my permit channel, losing clients and clout. Paul hung on. Sophie left for a social media job. I wished her well, she'd learn, eventually. That flash doesn't last without substance. At 62, I was in my prime, not as an employee but as the architect of my own empire. The certificate I'd presented that fateful day, once a symbol of my dismissal, now hung in my office, a reminder of what I'd overcome. I'd been discarded, but I'd risen, proving my worth to myself and a city that needed me. This was my story, and I was writing it with every permit signed, every project launched, every seed I'd planted blooming into triumph.